Blazing at number 5, Gaming and BS, which is from gamingandbs.com. Listening to Gaming and BS, you'll realise that they don't take themselves too seriously. The people who nominate it, Sabatheus42,
yes.
Sabatheus42 said, I like this podcast because the host chose an interesting main topic each week and discuss it a little bit more in depth than you might find on other podcasts. By delving deeper into the subject, they make you think a little bit more about it than what your gut feeling tells you to feel. And Jay Verquillen says, seconded. They do a really good job of engaging with listener feedback. I go through periodic binges. Besides, Brett and Sean have wicked Wisconsin accents.
I'm going to check that out because I want to find out what a wicked Wisconsin accent sounds like. It's just going to sound like an American accent to me, so...
Yeah, well, I don't know, unless they start talking like people at Fargo or something.
Welcome to Tabletop RPG Podcast, Gaming and BS.
Oh my God. Oh. Well, you know, and the nice thing is after 5 more years, we're going to have this shit down. That's the best part. No, we won't.
If it was the exact same every weekend, boring.
Yeah, that'd be true. True enough.
Boring.
Oh, well, here we are.
I'm Sean.
I'm Brett. Welcome to the show, folks. Glad to have you all here. Sean, how the hell are you?
Brett, I did not get it to EverCon.
I
my
know.
sincere apologies, but I had to put my personal safety first.
See, I know. I wouldn't do that. Your personal safety means nothing to me.
I know. I understand.
Nah, it's all right. We had about, I think about 1,000 people wait for the official numbers to come in. When we go through, and I'm not bullshitting. We actually go through, run through the numbers. And this is the 4th year since I've been part of leadership directorship of running it. Best one since we moved out of school.
Best one.
Absolutely. I mean, as close to flawless as I could get. I mean, 3 scheduling snafus. Everybody who was impacted gave me the. All right, fine, we'll do it because it's you guys and you're awesome. It was nice. It was super nice. A couple no-show game masters. A couple game masters were running games where players didn't show.
Probably coming from Madison, and it was all snowy down here.
Could have been. I actually had the strangest thing happened. I had a gentleman who was running a card tournament for a game that was not a very popular game. I don't remember what the hell it was. He listed it to me. I've never heard of it. I said, "Oh, are you running the game?" "Yeah." I said, "Oh, I'm really sorry because there's like 300 events or whatever. I don't have them all memorized." I said, "I'm sorry, dude." He says, "Is there anything you can do about that?" I said, I can't hold a gun to people's head and make them play your game." "Oh."
Well, you could.
I'm thinking, is that what you want me to do? And he's like, "Oh, I guess I'll find other stuff to do." I kind of felt bad until later on. I saw he was whooping up, having a good time playing all sorts of stuff. So I'm like, all right, it's not like he walked in for nothing. But it was good. It was a damn good convention all around.
That's good. I'm glad it was a success and without issue.
Yeah, there were BSers there. You know, it was nice. It was very nice.
Cool. Very nice.
So I think the next con I'm planning to hit is GaryCon. Sean, I know your little sketch on the GaryCon attendance, so we'll see how that goes for you.
Yeah, unless, I don't know. I have a conference in August that's going to spend up a lot of my money and time. And if I do go down to GaryCon, maybe just for a day.
There's only so many vacation days and vacation day monies available to either you or I. So
just waiting to get fired, and then I'll have all kinds of time.
Oh, man. That would be great. That'd be great.
Sean, you're fired. Woo! Sounds good. Today?
Just get it today? Can I leave now?
Effective immediately?
Like, if I leave now, will you ship my stuff, or do I have to pack it? You know what? Fuck it. Throw it out. I'll just leave.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was good. It was a good EverCon. Trying to get things wrapped up, organized for next year. See how we want to do that, dates and all that good stuff. Because there's always the convention centers like, oh, yeah, we were going to look at dates for next January. We're like, oh, my God, how are you not? It's a year away. So
lock them in.
That's the plan. That's the plan. More on that as it comes to fruition, but that's about it from announcements, man. Anything on your side?
We were honored to be nominated on EnWorld's top talk RPG talk show podcasts.
Yes, not actual play. The separated actual play from regular podcasting or whatever.
Something like 200 entries. Last year, we came in at number 7.
Which is impressive.
Yeah. This year was number 5. Shit, man.
What the hell?
I think what we do, Brett.
We're pulling a Ken and Robin. We're just not going away. And eventually, we'll be a media darling. Eventually, this will happen. No,
I think this might be the year for the Ennies.
Will we actually submit something?
We'll submit something. We may or may not win.
Okay.
We hit episode 300, and we call it a day.
Could do it. No.
Well, I don't know.
That's a lot. That's a lot of lightning striking in one place at the same repeatedly.
Going out on top. I don't know.
I'll see what happens.
We'll see. Maybe we just ride this wave. Of something.
Ultimate popularity. Let's move on to random encounter.
Yeah. I do have one other thing.
Oh yeah. What you got?
So I posted something on the forums, and this could be in die roll, honestly, but maybe it's my own random encounter.
Could be.
Maybe
we'll
random.
Go to. It's not in the notes. Let's hit it.
Let's go to random encounter, and then Sean writes in.
All right.
Sean from Gaming and BS Tabletop RPG Podcast writes in.
I hate that guy. What the fuck is he talking about? He's always babbling.
I heard he's a mumbler.
A bit of a mumbler, a bit.
A bit of a mumbler. He says, wait, how am I going to do this? Sean writes, I couldn't make it to EverCon this weekend. Weather got shitty, but that allowed me to game with my longtime game group. You know, the one with Jeff. We're still going through Tomb of Annihilation. As I was running the group through this crazy pre-published module, it dawned on me. There are a lot of things that we do as game masters that we really need to think about on the fly and have it make sense.
True. Good point.
Yeah, he's quick, this Sean guy.
Not bad.
Now, you may be saying, duh, Sean, you should already know this. But here's the thing. Everyone knows I run pre-published stuff, but even those robust description and rules of a game trips up game masters, beginner or advanced.
Fair. Okay.
The latter may have a quicker way to devise a mini system to make an encounter work. How many game masters get to an encounter and say, "Oh shit, how am I going to do this?" I'll give you an example. You enter a room, there's an object that triggers a trap. Say it's if a PC picks up a goblet off the altar, it triggers the trap. No problem. Pretty easy. Either someone detects it, disables it, forgoes it, triggers it. Right?
Got it.
Say it's triggered. There are 10 secret doors that now open and release 10 beasties into the room.
I like where this is going.
The room is a bit more robust, okay? I'll explain. So, a teleportation mechanism moves the character into a space without another PC. So, you enter the room. Mm-hmm. I'll paint this out. You enter because when I posted this in the forums, I wasn't as detailed. So this will help people get some context. When the party goes into the room, they actually trigger a trap that is a 15 by 10 pit trap at the entrance.
And there's another trap with this other thing that can be triggered.
Well, it continues.
Okay.
So when they trigger that trap, they get thrown into acid.
That sucks.
Yeah. So a couple characters take some 5 feet of acid.
It's a fair amount of acid damage.
It was 12d10?
Yeah, they're tough, though. They're adventurous. They crawl out of that, scrape it off.
Right.
Rub
9th
little,
level, 10th level.
Baking soda on them. They're fine.
Right. So they get out of that. But there's still this 15 by 10 hole at the entrance of the room.
Ah, that's dangerous. Yes.
So they go in the room, and there's 2 stairways, one on the left, one on the right. They both go in the same direction up, away from the party.
Okay.
One in each corner, far corners of the room. At the top is kind of a walkway, and there's a mural of some kind. You go up to the mural, and the mural is of a maze, of a labyrinth, okay? As you're looking at it. It's like a crossword puzzle from Sunday's Funnies.
Okay.
Right? But the mural moves, so the maze that you look at is always shifting.
Oh, it's magical. It shifts around.
Shifts around.
Got it.
You don't see anything in the maze, but it's just this big, huge 10-foot by 5-foot high maze.
Okay.
Somebody touches it, they teleport into the maze.
Oh, lovely. Okay, old school trappy. Yeah, got it.
Okay. If they look up, they actually look out back into the room where they were just standing.
Ha! Poor bastards.
As they move around the maze, it's 20 feet of fog. So that's like the distance they can see. Oh, I have, Jeff, I have dark vision. That's great, Jeff. It's foggy, not dark.
Got it. I don't have fog vision. Ah, curse it.
Damn,
Only I was
fog vision.
Knew that subclass of fog elf. I should have taken it.
So they can walk. As they walk, you roll on a random table at the end of their turn.
To see where they end up.
Well, they come across something in the maze.
Got it. Okay.
All right. So what happens is somebody runs up there, touches the maze, disappears. People are like, oh, shit. If you walk up to the maze and one of the player characters is in it, you can actually see them.
Oh, neat.
Right. Okay.
What if you don't touch with a hand? You touch with a weapon.
It's got to be touched. Living creature.
Oh. I take the thief's face, press it to it. Sorry. Sorry.
So-
Sorry. I was in the zone there.
So what happens is they go in there and something happens. I can't remember. There's another trap that is triggered.
Jesus.
Oh, that's what it was. The first person that touches it goes into the maze and opens 10 secret doors.
Okay.
Out of each secret door is an undead minotaur,
Oh, nice. Not too bad.
which are something like 67 hit points each.
Ah. All day. This party could take that all day.
All day long. It's the party at Jeff.
Even though it was Jeff that was in the maze?
So it was not Jeff originally.
Oh,
So
originally it means it's going.
his wife goes in there, right? So they are like, holy shit. All the minotaurs come into the room. So what happens?
Oh, hang on. Spoilers. Carry on.
Spoilers. All right. So I mentioned this kind of in the post, but I'm going off the rails here. What happens is, so as a game master, I'm like, okay, how am I going to run this encounter? There's 10 freaking beasties. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, at least 6 player characters. One goes into the maze. We're running initiative. Great. Okay.
And you don't want her bored while everyone else is having fight fun.
Fair. Right.
Yeah.
So then what happens is people are like, oh shit. I run up the stairs because all the minotaurs and I touch the maze.
Soup.
Zoop. Great. What happens though is I think they believe, I'll touch the maze. We'll all be in the same spot.
Oh, randomly placed within the maze.
Randomly placed in the maze. I don't even know as a game master, I don't even need to know what the maze looks like because it doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't.
Because it always shifts, and they never run into each other.
I've heard that about mazes before, generally speaking, because you don't necessarily need to map them all. But wow, they're never going to... Oh, my God.
Yes.
They are fucked.
Right. So they can... it doesn't actually say whether they can hear anybody, but I go, you can hear them faintly in the distance. No big deal, because it's not relevant. Right?
Yeah, just adds
hey,
more.
I'm here. Yep, you go in that direction, you hit a wall.
Damn it.
You go left, you hit a wall. You go right, left, straight, left, right, left. Like, I just make up directions because it's always shifting.
Wow.
Yeah. It's actually more interdimensional than anything.
So what's the issue here? Is that type of shit you had to make up like how it works?
Nope. So that's easy, right? Yep, you're in the maze. Here you go.
Yep.
You can get out of the maze. All right.
Okay.
If you come across an item in the maze, you pick up the item, you get teleported back into the room.
Random bullshit gets you out of the random bullshit. Got it.
Right. So what happens is you have 3 people in the maze. You got 3 people out in the Minotaurs, and you have 10 Minotaurs running around looking to kill party members.
Yeah.
So when I write down the encounter and I write down the initiative and I figure out, like, okay, your turn, what are you going to do? It's pretty standard stuff. Like, hey, Brett, you're a go, buddy. You go, all right, Sean. Well, I'm here. I'm going to try to do this.
Yep.
Okay.
Attack the Minotaur. That's what I do.
But the tricky thing is, well, that's another thing. Okay, so you get teleported in the room. You're behind this object. Are you going to be sneaky? No. Okay, great. Not sneaky. You know? Or
right,
I fire at a Minotaur with a missile weapon. Great. Now, I could be the game master that says, oh, they all see you, all 10 of you pile on top of you.
Oh, yeah, all 10 of them just jump me. Yeah.
But maybe not all 10 see them. So so my dilemma is, like, how do I make this a reasonable encounter that may actually be feasible given the landscape without just going, well, 10 of them just kind of pile on you? Because if that's the case, the character's dead. There's no question.
And that's one of those encounters that my assumption is where I should read it, I'd be like, oh, this ain't that hard. And then as soon as something happens, because sometimes you read that encounter and you're like, oh, I bet it'll work like this.
Right.
I mean, I tried to do that with Iron Shoes and Blacksmith's Folly and Fish Story and other Avalon stuff I've written or working on. Okay, what do I think people are going to do? And then you have to caveat the fuck out of it and say, okay, now if they don't do this, try this. If they don't do that, try that. I mean, and there's only so many if-then statements that you can plug into anything, because then it becomes insane. Wow.
So my epiphany, so to speak, was how many now people that have game mastered for a while could be like, okay, I've got I'm going to write down every Minotaur, all their hit points.
I'll use miniatures. It's not hard. I do this, and this.
Yeah, that too.
Or whatever.
Put the initiative counters out.
Yeah.
No big deal. But, okay, you change into an eagle and you fly around the room and then you're casting spells. Which one are you shooting at? If you're not running miniatures, you could be like, where of my 10 Minotaurs are the closest one? Right? Okay, I'll do random one. Or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I go after number 9. Okay. Do you go after number 9 again? Right? So it's like keeping track of all this BS that's going on. And I think that beginner GMs, they're going to face something like this and be like, shit, man, I don't know how to do this.
That's where I think some of the theater of mind, not that it's too hard or breaks down, but it's challenging.
Oh, yeah.
Even running D&D game for my 2 younger kids, they're in a fight, and Alana will say, how many are there? I'll say, you think anywhere from 6 to 9. Well, don't I know? No, you do not know. What you do know is they have a bugbear on top of you, there's goblins around you, and you think AJ's 2 characters are also engaged in other stuff. Yeah, I guess I really wouldn't notice. No, you don't. You're kind of busy right now. You're really not 100% sure. So the fight. And it's, I have a mechanism to do that, but I am not doing anything as multiplanar that as you are.
Well, now, these Minotaurs, I think their intelligence is like a 4. So you, by rights, that kind of sets the tone on whether they're tactical.
Yeah, it can. And the other piece, too, is like, are they trickable? What happens if a Minotaur touches the maze?
Living creature.
He's undead, not living. Right. He's not living. He's not dead.
Doesn't do anything. I had a player actually argue with me about them climbing steps. So they're like, well, we'll climb the stairs. They can't get up the stairs. I'm like, all right, whatever. I can roll with that. I still got 10 Minotaurs.
Yeah. Good luck, kid.
They did something pretty cool to get out of it, but it cost 2 character lives.
I could see that.
Well, they separated the party. Like, talk about never splitting the party.
Well, that's
go in the maze, boom, you're in one spot. Boom, you're in another.
I mean, that's old school Tomb of Horrors, man. You get in there, you can end up in some room naked without any of your stuff.
Yep.
You end up teleported somewhere else. I mean, that's an old school trick.
Well, shit, even just the acid trap.
Oh, yeah, mess you up.
They're like, well, you could probably fix your armor if you've got mend. I'm like, I think they took like 50 or 60 points of acid. Like, I think your clothes are gone.
Yeah, it's.
I didn't play it that heavy-handed.
But what's goofy though is especially if you're new GM and you read that, you say, so they take acid damage, and and the first time player goes, so does my armor fall off? And the description does not say after 30 points of damage, all metal armor is destroyed. After 20 points of damage, all leather armor is destroyed. All leather or cloth is destroyed. Right. It doesn't have that in there.
No.
So you're reading that, you're like, shit, is there a rule for that? You start looking up, trying to find it in some long forgotten tome at your desk. You don't know where the fuck that is. Those can get tricky. Those can get very tricky just from.
Oh,
yeah. What happens?
So what happens is he was a halfling. Bombix, the halfling druid.
Bombix, the halfling druid. I like that druid. Already.
So I attack him. I'm like, does a 9 hit? No. But you were in the acid. Does your armor sustain 50 points of damage? Now what's your armor class? Oh. And he's like, I'm like, it's all right. It's all good. Somehow your armor survived, but
be aware.
So when I got kind of 3/4 into this thing, I'm like, I don't want anybody telling me I'm not a fair game master because I'm not pulling punches, but I want to make sure that what's going on makes sense and that I'm not just being either overzealous.
There's a makes sense. I think that's a key thing is you're running something you're like, I want it to make sense. Yeah. Confusion in combat, fine. Confusion to the point of nobody knows anything and can't do anything, and the players themselves feel like they're being screwed via confusion. Like I can't unconfuse myself. No matter what question I ask, Sean goes, "You don't know. You don't know. You don't know.
Yeah, that's
you don't know."
no good. Yeah.
Again, we've talked to adversarial and other things. I think it is a challenge though to take any number of encounters and have them make sense when the players do something wonky.
Yeah, and a lot of that stuff, like you mentioned, isn't like, okay, this is exactly what happens. Now, some of these encounters are pretty long. Like, hey, here's this deal. Because there's a sarcophagus that's changing colors. They come across keys in the maze, and they're like, oh, I know what to do. And so there's an element of them understanding what's going on. But I'm thinking of a new player reading this. I'm like, how do they even get their head wrapped around all the shit that's going on right now?
I think that is some of I've heard this dislike, if you will, of the large modules, the big $50 tomes that Wizards puts out. Well, the nice things about the old modules is that you had a very short, quick thing, which is where I think you start looking at DM's Guild, Adventures League stuff, and like, okay, this one I can get my head around. It's 4 pages. That's where you should be cutting your teeth. At least to me, in my opinion, or for some people. And maybe some people don't care. And they grab, out of the abyss. They're like, oh, I got this. And they just go. And there's no problem. They have no issue. And they theater of mind that sucker. And it's just beautiful and it's wonderful or whatever. But I think it can be daunting.
Yeah.
Not only just the size of the adventure, but then you also think, well, this is how adventures are supposed to work. And this is how they have to be because it's the official stuff. So, yeah, man, I get you.
So when I thought about this, I'm like, I could easily do, and we talk about, we got like 270 plus episodes of talking about how to run a game, how to be a better game master, different tactics and references. And then I think about none of the stuff that we talk about is going to help this person tackle that encounter. And so I thought about actually going on YouTube and going, okay, I'm the game master. I've got Joe, Jane, Sally, Slick, and Jack. Here's their player characters. This is the synopsis of the encounter in the room. First thing I do is know that they're going to trigger the trap, and I'm going to write down. This is what I'm going to write down. I'm going to write down the hit points of every bad guy. And then I'm going to write down the bad guy's AC, initiative, actually explain what I'm doing. All right, character goes in, we roll initiative. They go, this character goes to there, that triggers this. This is what I'm going to do. Put 10 Minotaurs in there. It's a free-for-all.
Well, White Plume Mountain, a funhouse dungeon, there's a section of it where you have these discs hanging either from ropes or chains. And the rope or chain goes to the center of the disc. You hop on it, it tips and rocks wildly. You have to hop across these weird little disky things to get to the end of this chamber. It's difficult as all hell. Of course, you fall, terrible damage. There's another room. If you walk in, the door will shut behind you immediately, and there's these weird steely globes hanging from unbreakable wire, which literally cannot be broken by anything. You got to figure out a way out, And people are going to try stuff, do things, poke around, punch stuff, hit things, and try to figure it out. And even if you are using miniatures, there's still description, the power of your description, the clarity of what you're doing, and how you set that scene. We've talked about this a little bit before where I've said before, I can't remember which episode this was. It wasn't that long ago. Oh, you walk in, there's a library, there's a chair, this, that, and see the players aren't paying attention. Yeah, and you also notice the lich at the podium. What? Why'd you bury the lead? It's tough. It's really hard. And I think that's an interesting approach, man, because how the hell do you run this room? And if you've done this for 30 years, you're like, it ain't that hard. But sometimes you've done it for 30 years. You crack that book open, you read it, like, oh, I get it. It isn't going to be that hard.
Right.
I know my players pretty well. You're going to get in here, Minotaur death room, maze, poison, got this. Psh, how hard could this be? And then Jeff does something crazy. And Jeff's wife does something equally crazier. And then Brett stops doing anything. He just locks up all four and stares at it.
Oh, there were people in the maze, sitting in the maze. I'm going to just sit here.
Yeah. And you're like, okay, so they just quit. Or did they quit? They're not having fun. They're waiting for something to happen. And, you know what I'm saying?
Well, I'm going to do a short rest. I'm going to recoup some stuff.
When you've got a room where there's like undead death raining down upon you in a big-ass pit full of poison behind you, or acid in this case, and then somebody's in a box where like, okay, I can't get out, nothing fun is happening here, I just sit down and wait. I'll just wait for the fight to get done, then Sean will get to me. It's like, how do you keep that interesting for everybody?
Right.
Keep the person from saying, well, fuck it, I just take a long rest. Wait, you do what? Just take a long rest, I don't care.
So there's a random table while they're in the maze. And if they roll a certain number, they come across a colored key, okay? And if they grab the colored key, it bops them out of the maze, okay? That's one way to get out of it, which is the only way they actually found how to get out. Another result is you run into a regular Minotaur in the maze, and you do one-on-one combat with him.
And get your ass kicked, possibly.
Hey, there's nobody helping you. You are like, that's it. And So, of course, I've got casters like, oh, no problem. I got a, 120-foot range with this spell. I'm like, great. Fog, 20 feet. Oh, what? Yeah, you can't see them that far back. So you're not going to be able to cast your fancy-dancy spell there, sorcerer boy. So
well, and like, even if you go back to the acid piece, there's nothing in that acid description, the way you say it, that says what detrimental effect, if any, is supposed to happen.
Because the old modules would say all their equipment, some of them would say it's trashed.
And I know some new adventures, at least Pathfinder ones and other, it's been forever since I've read some. But you'd be expected to reference back to the acid rules in the book. And if you don't have those readily available, or if you're like, oh, shit, where is that? Or you don't think about it. It's not the same as like swimming. You're like, oh, they're going to get out of this as quick as they can. It's acid. They'll figure a way, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, oh, you're in an ocean. We've talked about this before. You better bone up on your swimming rules. Someone's going to end up in a goddamn drink, be able to figure out how you're going to deal with that. It's like, oh, it's a pit. It's got acid. It does, 6 million D4 damage. Great. They'll all be dead. If they survive, they'll be up here poking around. Probably a bunch of Minotaurs kick their ass for a while. Maybe someone gets caught in the maze. And they're like, wow, not only did they take the damage, somebody asked me the question of, do I still have my armor? What happened to my bowstring? Is my spellbook okay? Like, do we stop right now and look all this up?
Yeah.
Or do you just hand wave and keep going? And then somebody goes in, touches the thing, 10 Minotaurs show up, and people are like, wait a minute, maybe we should. I'm really glad we did hand wave that thing. And this game master's like, I really kind of wish I didn't hand wave that thing, because not having a really effective metal armor right now would be kind of fun and be a little more of a challenge, because Ragnar the Mighty's laying waste to my undead here. There's a lot that can go on in any given encounter, and finding a way to make it all sing and be reasonable or realistic, quote unquote, and whatever that means in the game you're playing, that's not an easy task. And I think the other main piece on that I would tell this mysterious Sean who wrote in,
right.
I would tell mysterious Sean that you can't beat yourself up that if you had one encounter like that didn't go as well as you wanted it to. Because it's going to happen. You could run a big ass module like that one, and it might not go well in a room or two. So, not like the whole thing's going to go to shit on you, but you're like, fuck, that didn't work out that well.
So there is 1, 2. How is there? Did both of Jeff's characters survive? I think
they both survived. Even the poor paladin who's not a paladin anymore.
Yeah. I had him down to death saves, though.
Attaboy.
Yeah.
See, now I don't feel so bad you missed Evercon.
Yeah, well. Anyways, so Sean, if you're listening to this, hey, man, you can do it lots of different ways.
I feel for you, brother.
All right. You want to read the first one?
Sure. Good Lord. We're a half hour in now. So
I know.
Get with this thing.
I know.
This might have to be a listener feedback one.
Yeah, it might be.
Forrester Gary comments on 275, GM books in your toolbox. Steel and Cthulhu, one of my faves, was mentioned. I'm glad I happen to have that one first. He says, surprised no one mentioned Vornheim, which is a table-ready aid that I carry with me in my gaming bag all the time. Create cities on the fly with zero prep. Seriously, zero prep. I also like and use other random generators at the table. Yuan Sun, various tables from the metal gods of Ur-Hadad, Fever Dreaming, Marlinko, etc. I do have a couple of those, so I should have brought that up, especially the Vornheim one. I do have that. He's right. You can make a city right damn quick. But he continues, most of my inspiration comes from Discover Magazine. To the best of our knowledge, stuff to blow your mind, and a bevy of nonfiction and fiction that I read. I'm not much of a TV or movie watcher, or rather my TV and movie watching is, frankly, hard to gamify. Twilight Zone, the original series, movies by David Lynch and the Brothers Quay. I try to integrate elements of these things into my games, but I've yet to be able to fully immerse a game in these weird spaces. Although I did come close with a Call of Cthulhu scenario I based on David Lynch's short film Rabbits. What I wouldn't give to run or play a session of Eraserhead. I think it's interesting. I'm glad you brought up those other sources there for us. That's cool. And some things are hard to gamify. I think sometimes if you're watching like the original Twilight Zone thing, you may take that and go, I can't make the whole thing about that, but I like this thing. I like this piece. And sometimes it's just touches of a David Lynch movie or something weird or odd that you've got that you really like. You can take that and slot it into what you're doing. So that's pretty. And I think some of the I would say that nonfiction is a pretty good way to go. We've mentioned that repeatedly. Even what was the last episode we talked about that big map of Rome. We've talked about, hey, they just found a derelict, basically ghost ship full of dead bodies. No one knows where it came from. Hey, we found this. They found that. There's a shit ton of crazy unsolved mysteries that are nonfiction. You can grab any number of those things and make a really cool game out of them.
Yeah.
Very cool. Thank you, Forrest.
Yeah, thanks, Forrest. Haven't heard from you in a while. Thanks for
good stuff.
Commenting on the forums. Tom, also in the same thread, comments on GM books in your toolbox. I have a couple of entertaining random role books I'll check every now and then if I want something unusual or unpredictable tossed in. Encounters, treasures, motivations, etc. Roll XX and the Starship from Hell. I also like incorporating the concept of primal magic from the Primal Order books of Wizards of the Coast before they acquired D&D or published Magic the Gathering. It's a capstone system with conversions for the major games of the time. It was a way to give deity-level creatures a real boost, magic-wise. It also provided guidelines for building pantheons with several interesting examples and ways that mortals might acquire primal magic. It also includes a bestiary book, although you wouldn't want groups of less than 20th level or so to beat the weakest of them.
Wow.
Yeah.
One of the things that Tom, when he mentions this brings it to my mind is looking at some of your old gaming stuff that you have, even if you don't convert your old TSR module or whatever, but if you liked, the Volturnus series from Star Frontiers, or if you had a really cool Star Trek adventure or a Star Wars adventure from the old West End games that you really liked, you could reskin stuff for inspiration. And I have found myself, after reading, if you're listening to, I should say, read this from Tom, I've found myself thinking, there are a number of different things I've read. And I mentioned a little bit, the old Dragon magazine. I'd read a ecology of something. I'm always a sucker for monster ecologies. Ed Greenwood did a number of them, as did others. Wow, that's pretty cool. I used the ecology of the, the rot grub. Pretty interesting. Just simple things like, oh, that's neat. Oh, I bet I could do this. And from an inspiration perspective. So looking at some of your old stuff that you've got on the shelf, blow the dust off it, read it. You don't even have to do like a full-on whatever to 5e conversion or whatever to second edition or whatever it is you happen to be playing conversion. You can take that old Star Frontiers or, Shadowrun or whatever you want to do, and you can steal some stuff from there. That's a good idea. I like that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tom.
Thanks, Tom. Last one, we got Jim Fitzpatrick. Sends us an audio. Local buddy, Jim.
Hey, Sean. Hey, Brett. Jim Fitzpatrick here. Wanted to give you guys some feedback on the most recent episode on gaming creation or game creation tools. Some of these that I'm going to talk about are not strictly system neutral. A couple of them are D&D related, but a lot of them are system neutral. So I'll give you everything. You can do what you want. I think you hit a lot of things on the head, like Never Unprepared, Lazy Dungeon Master. Those are, I think, classics. I think they're going to be classics for a really long time, and I definitely find myself just flipping through them from time to time. I read both of them cover to cover, but now I just sort of go back to the parts that I need. There's another really good tool out there. Tom Lamel, who used to be the Dungeon Bastard, has a really good video on a concept that he calls Plot Radar. That's really easy to find. You can just search Dungeon Bastard Plot Radar on Google, and it's part of his Disorganized Play show on YouTube. And it was a really good concept to get in my head. It's great for planning and totally system neutral. There are some D&D specific things that I really, really like that center around monsters, and it's not just like monsters and how I would use them in a combat. It's monsters and how they affect the world around them. So those two tools are Volo's Guide and then Keith Amon's blog and now book, The Monsters Know What They're Doing. I hated Volo's Guide the first time I read it, but when I actually kind of sat down with it for a long time, because I was planning a game that was heavy on gnolls. Like gnolls were the main enemy for the first part of the campaign. I read the Gnoll chapter in Volo's guide. I started reading the Tactics on the Monsters Know What They're Doing blog, and it helped me understand like how gnolls roll and why they would be scary and why the community would react to them in certain ways. So it helped me really create this atmosphere of a community that was terrorized by gnolls. Ended up being a really interesting campaign, and it really got me hooked on those two particular aids. Jumping back out into the system neutral stuff, there's two Monty Cook Games products that I use all the time. The first is their NPC deck, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's just a giant deck of NPCs. And if I need to populate a tavern or just a traveling band that the party runs into, you can just grab a little stack of cards out of the deck, and you just have a list of NPCs with some personality characteristics and appearances, and it just helps you like make a good workable set of NPCs for any encounter. They also have a little PDF. They call them glimmers. They're short PDFs. One of them is called Taking the Narrative by the Tail, and it talks about the GM intrusion mechanic. I don't know who it was that said that's handcuffing the GM, but I actually think it's the greatest GM tool that I've seen in a while. But just that PDF talks about how how you can make use of narrative twists and turns and good times to do that sort of thing. So that always gets my head in a good space, whether the game I'm playing has intrusions as a strict mechanic or not. And then finally, the Black Hack 2nd Edition book, just a few bucks on drive-through. And the GMing section in that book is unreal. Even if I'm not playing the Black Hack, I can always read it and just sort of go and look at it. And it just makes me feel like a game master, for lack of a better term. So those are all great. Really enjoyed this episode. I'm hoping that there's some other good feedback about what other people are using on the forums and on the show. And thanks a lot, guys. Have a happy 2020 and keep it up.
That guy.
I like that. One of the things that Jim brought out that I think is interesting is not only... So we talk a lot about how to use monsters in combats or encounters and so forth. And I think I alluded to it with the ecology of, and I love one of the things that's cool about, the monsters aren't stupid. They know what they're doing. As Jim was talking there, I think trying to figure out how something affects everything around. What would happen if there was a dragon in the area? That's the big crazy, oh my God. But what happens if there is, a small clutch of owlbears in the woods? What does that do? There's lots of like one-shot type adventure things. They're like, oh, there's goblins, kobolds took my baby. Goblins kidnapped the sheep. Or the goblins are slaughtering this, that, or the other thing. Well, those are humanoid-y type things doing humanoid-y, standard, orcish, goblin, koboldy bad things. But what happens when, a Remoraz is, terrorizing a village? How's it operating? Or it lives in a certain area and it's taking its toll on woolly mammoths, and then the mammoths aren't around for this other thing, and it was kind of a knock-on effects of the ecology issues and so on that can happen. I think that's an interesting take, and there's a lot of different ways to get ideas around that stuff. That just really struck a chord with me from Jim when he said that. I like that. Just thinking about more than just the encounters themselves and like, oh, here's how you make NPCs, here's how you do this. That's more of here's how you make sure the world comes alive. How do you really make sure that this thing that you're doing is realistic? There's a great big owlbear in the area. Well, guess what? You don't have the animal noises. You don't have this. You see this type of track, or these other predators aren't around. And what are the signs of that happening? What would that do? Yeah. So I like that. It just makes the setting alive. It makes you feel like it's really something that's actually happening. It's pretty cool. I like that. Thank you, Jim.
Yeah. Jim's good. Jim's awesome. He's always thinking, that guy.
It almost ties in a way of, how do you make sure the setting is doing its thing? I think that almost ties into what you were talking about, Sean, at the very beginning here, is a room like that, as complex as that is. And there's even ones that I'm sure somebody heard that goes, oh, you think that's complicated? I remember, or I have they're out there. There's crazy rooms or encounters and things where gravity shifts and things slide sideways. They go front or back. You teleport. There's all sorts of crazy funhouse bananas, traps, shit that you can land on somebody. And depending on how that's working, I guess, to me, sometimes it's like there's almost if the game master can't make it make sense, as you said, Sean, it's almost like I don't even know how the fuck this fits. It feels like incongruous to the rest of the adventure or something along those lines, and that can be tricky. You know, I have read adventures over the years where you come along and you're like, why is this room silly? This room appears silly. Everything else is very serious, but this room just seems silly. Why is that?
Yeah.
Or if that trap room is like crazy complex compared to all the other trap rooms, or is way over the top magical compared to all the other trap rooms in that dungeon, you know, sometimes you're like, man, it feels weird. And then you as a game master, have you been doing it long enough? Did you notice it soon enough to say, you know what, I'm going to demagic this sucker. I'm going to change it down so that it makes better sense. It feels like it doesn't fit. You know, what do you know? How do you even change that?
Right.
That's interesting stuff, man. I don't know.
I don't know either.
Well, we're getting long already. I think we should probably just move. Why don't we want to skip the topic this time? We'll hit that next.
Sure.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's go right over to die roll. Let's bust through this.
All right, die roll. Thanks, everybody that wrote in for Random Encounter, all the comments. Thanks, everybody. Audio. Much appreciated. Die roll. Got a few. So, start off with Nathan Hughes. Okay, so Nathan somehow found out we linked to a blog that listed concept art on spaceships. So he's
yeah, we did that.
So he's like, hey, if you don't mind. So I said, why not? Because some of you will probably be interested in this. So he has a blog, but he has also an entry and collection of cool sci-fi spaceship concept art and designs. And I want to say there's like 75 things he's collected.
Damn.
That he listed in that. So I have a link to that in the show notes. Check it out for all you sci-fi, traveler, etc., mothership people. Let's see. Second, Matt Mercer posts on Reddit about the new Wildemount book. So if you haven't heard, we talked about last episode about Wizards of the Coast launching a book, and nobody knew what it was going to be about, and everybody was hedging their bets. Oh, it's Dark Sun, man.
I know I didn't get what I wanted.
And it's Wildemount. So if you're not familiar with Wildemount, apparently that is the campaign setting that Matt Mercer on Critical Role has come up with. I will attempt to put links in the show notes from everything Jim mentioned in his audio. So Dungeon Master, Plot Radar.
I have seen that one a long time ago. I need to find that one again.
Well, I see it. Sly Flourish in him talked about it, I think.
Yeah, I remember that one being pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I got to find that sucker.
So I found it. I Googled it. I think Sly Flourish, a.k.a. Mike Shea. I'm so confused. Are you Mike Shea or are you Sly Flourish?
I don't know.
Yeah, he's so complex.
I quit.
But he was on with Tom talking about something, and it seems to, I think, involve Plot Radar, but I could be mistaken. The monsters, what they're doing, blog. I'll see if I can find that. Monty Cook Games, NPC deck. That should be a no-brainer. I can't remember the other one Jim mentioned. And then the Black Hack I could find that too.
Easily done.
Yeah. So, that's this catch-up round of Random Encounter.
This is also what happens when Brett gets back from running a 3-day convention. I'm fucking exhausted.
Yeah, Brett's tired.
I'm very tired.
Brett's tired.
Holy crap. I was naughty and I was so hungover Monday. I haven't been hungover in forever. I normally am much more in control than that. Good God, that was stupid.
Yeah. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen.
Brett does not bounce like he did 20 years ago.
Brett had a realization this past week.
Brett was stupid.
Brett was like, he was uncaged. I don't get out much. Woo!
That's not true. That was stupid.
No. Well, hey, take a few Tylenol, man. You'll be fine.
Yeah, I gotta take some ibuprofen. I had a crown put on my tooth early this morning. That probably didn't help either. I can still taste the Novocaine. Get that out of my mouth.
So,
Ugh.
there you go, Brett. Indulged. He's been at the dentist.
Hey.
The more you know.
I got to hear about your inability to game master a simple trap.
Hey, man,
Oh,
that's role-playing based. Come on. All right.
All right, let's get out of here.
Yeah, so we'll catch you on the next one where we're going to talk about what, Brett?
Back in a Kickstarter.
Kickstarter.
That's right.
Just back anything Brett puts out there and you'll be fine.
Totally. Yeah, don't do that.
Do it.
All right.
All right. I'm Sean.
I'm Brett. Good night and good game and all.
This episode of Gaming in BS brought to you with the help from the following BSers. Grand Minor, Corey Wynn, Hawk Sparrow, Larry Haupt, Mark Tasaka, Pure Mongrel, Chris Steele, Ron Bishop, Thomas Hook, Rain Humphrey, Craig, Brandon Barnes, Laramie Wall, Dan LaValle, Jason Hobbs, Sky, Old School DM, Perry Basor, Michael Dinos, Jim Fitzpatrick, Christopher Gray, Bruce Cunnington, John Kayward, Corey Gonzalez, Eileen Barnes, Robert Neiman, Niall Diamond, Howard Bishop, Mark Anthony Benedetti, Eric Salzwedel, Closet Gamer, Jeff Goad, Aaron Coleman, Ray, Otis C, W. Mellencamp, Craig Huber, Rich Wisson, Old Scouser Roleplaying, Jared Rasher, Andy Hall, David F. Baylog, Harrigan, Melissa Bashinsky, Brian Rumble, Henry Newcomb, Eric Tavola, Huss Carl, Roger Blessett, Mark Sohn, Andy Olson, Eric Avia, Ron Blessing, Jeff Seifert, Ghost GM, Mike Hess, Chad Gleeman, Finoff, Josh Wallace, and Marco Froelich. For ways to support the show, head over to gaminginbs.com/support-us. Thanks, BSers. This has been a Litterbox Studio production.